can I thank everybody for being here today and for inviting me to participate. It's really, I think we've come a long way, actually. I was elected in 2010. I remember sitting there talking to another colleague as we were waiting for business to start in the chamber, and a male colleague said, it's just becoming impossible to move in this place because there's too many handbags in the way. And I also remember when I was first appointed as a government whip, I was the point I was appointed, there were 3 women who were put into the government whip's office, and we were numbers 7, 8 and 9 of women Conservative MPs who had been made government whips. So it really just shows where we've gone. And the point that was made, I remember someone coming in going, oh, the whip's office is so much nicer now because it smells nice. Because strangely enough, we didn't make it smell like a gents' locker room. But anyway, there's no offence to any of the men on the room on the call. I'm sure you were all very fragrant, but these were things that were sort of we had to get over back in 2010, and it's great that we have moved so far, that we have proxy votes for baby leave, that we have acknowledged that women MPs might well get pregnant and need to take some time off to be with their babies. These are amazing steps forward. We also have changed sitting hours in my time in Parliament, such that we have what are now called family friendly hours, but I don't think anyone could ever consider them family friendly. Anyway, what I'm here to talk about today, of course, is what we've been doing over the last 12 months. It is actually 12 months almost to the day since my committee first met as the procedure committee. So we were created on the 2nd of March 2020, and we had this long debate of all the inquiries we wanted to do and all the work we wanted to do and all the things we wanted to change and improve about the way that we carry out our business. And then at the end, someone said, I think we probably should have a look at what's going on with this coronavirus thing. And the following week, we had the clerk of the House came to give us private evidence. And it was the first time we'd heard the term social distancing. This 2-meter rule was just no one had heard anything like it. And now we live with social distancing. And, you know, who'd heard of the term furlough this time last year? Who'd have thought that face masks would be something you just have to have in every pocket, in every handbag, in everything you wear, just in case you find yourself going out at the last minute and then realizing you haven't got your face mask with you. So things have moved incredibly quickly. And I think we must remember what Parliament was able to achieve in those first few months, because this time last year, Parliament didn't think there'd be any difference in the way we conducted our business and we would carry on. And I remember having a meeting with the leader of the House and saying, whatever happens, Parliament has to continue because we're there to scrutinise the executive. MPs have to make sure that the executive are behaving appropriately, doing the right things, and we're working for our constituents. And the fact is that Parliament exists to allow us to do that. We can't effectively represent our constituents without having a voice in Parliament. And so it was really important that Parliament was able to continue. We had an early Easter recess, but when we came back and we had those hybrid meetings, and my committee, which had thought that we'd be, you know, we'd have a procedure committee that would be off doing other things, spent the whole of the Easter recess considering the evidence about what a hybrid parliament might look like and making recommendations. And we were able to get that hybrid parliament up and running. And we were at that point constrained by the limitations of the technology. That was our constraining factor. It wasn't our will and desire to do it. It was the technology. And I would say now we're probably actually constrained by our will and desire to change things. The technology is now way ahead of us and allows us to do much more. And it's been touched on already. We were world beating. I spent most of the late spring and early summer speaking to equivalent committees around the world, of parliaments around the world, who wanted to know what we'd done and how we'd managed to do what we'd done in the Westminster Parliament. And you know, I think you only have to look at the House of Lords and how they've conducted their business to see that actually there was a chamber that went even further than we did. And there were various reasons for that, which we'll come on to. I suppose one of the other things I do want to touch on as well is that what impact this has had on the lives of MPs. So yes, it's made Parliament more accessible, but it's also perhaps merged more of our private lives with our public lives, because we've all got used to doing these calls on Zoom. We're all used to how it looks and say unmute and what your background and have a virtual background and everything else. But if you're an MP and you're saying your question in Parliament, the whole world is looking at your background. They're all looking at whether you've got the picture of your children as I have behind you. They're all looking at what your furniture looks like. And, you know, the diary columnists and the political sketch writers had great fun looking at people's homes and what they were like. And that's actually very intrusive. I don't really want people to know. I mean, I'm sat talking to you from my constituency in Staffordshire Moorlands, but I don't really want you to know what's going on behind here and what my family are up to. This is my little space that I'm prepared to talk to you from, but I don't want to go any further. And actually, I probably didn't really want to go this far if you'd asked me this time last year, because this was quite a private space. So I think we have got to accept that whilst there have been benefits, enormous benefits, and we've kept Parliament going, it has had an impact on members of Parliament and members of Parliament private lives. And I suspect also on many people's mental health, because I'm lucky. I've been in this job 11 years. I've got a family. I've got people around me. There's an awful lot of my colleagues who, particularly the new MPs, who haven't got any idea of what normal looks like to be a member of Parliament. Daisy and Abena, you came in and almost within days, it must feel like things changed. And I do really worry about what's going to happen once things change, as to how we're all going to adapt and how we're all going to manage and how we're going to make sure there's support for people who, you know, we are dealing now with the most difficult cases I have ever seen in all of my time as an MP. And I've had difficult cases throughout. But it's the volume of them. It's the fact that it's incessant. Every time I switch on my computer and look at my inbox, there's more and more there. And that is something that I think we're all going to have to think very hard about, that tech has enabled us to do this, but maybe it's also intruded, and maybe it's also given us new challenges that we have to face. Now, what do we do next? So clearly we've got this roadmap out of Parliament, and we're waiting to find out what the government proposes in terms of the motions that will expire at the end of March. And those motions currently allow us to have full virtual participation in debates and scrutiny. It allows us to have proxy voting, and I'll just make a quick comment about remote and proxy voting in a moment. And it will shortly, because they've been tabled tonight, allow us to participate in a virtual Westminster Hall, not in the Grand Committee room, but with Westminster Hall style debates. And all those motions will expire at the end of the month. And we need to think about how we manage that and what we want to continue and what point it is that we want to do. I won't call a reset, but perhaps reconsider where we are. The first point is that's got to be a matter for Parliament, and parliamentarians need to have their say. And frankly, that hasn't been the case with nod or nothings, which is what we call those motions that are put on the order paper for debate, for a decision at the end of the day. No debate, no opportunity to amend, no opportunity for parliamentarians to say what they want. That has to change. We need parliamentarians to have their say on this. On call lists, I can well understand Daisy's desire to keep call lists. There are many different views on this. Again, I think that has to be a matter for Parliament, because there are plus points, but we also need to remember that you want a dynamic, effective debate that moves on and actually properly scrutinises. And it's really important that government is properly scrutinised. That is absolutely key. And I think also so voting, just to say, if we'd had normal voting in the period of this session, Abena, Daisy and I would all have had to leave to go and vote twice, because there's been 2 votes which had been conducted and carried out and handed in for us by our proxies. I think that it would be much better if at the moment we could do those votes on our phone, because we'd be engaged. You probably would have seen us slightly duck out of the meeting so that we could vote, but at least we'd be properly engaged and we'd be part of the democratic process in a way that it doesn't feel we are when a proxy delivers that vote. But I suspect that parliamentarians do want to get back to physical voting. And then, we'll see once we've got back to that, whether we want to make further amendments, perhaps, for instance, keeping the card reader system that has been introduced. So there's an awful lot that we've got to think about. The Procedure Committee is going to be doing a piece of work in very short order to look at our recommendations around those motions due to expire at the end of the month. But I think what we've now got is a body of evidence about all sorts of things that no one thought was possible even 12 months ago, and how they've worked. And that will help to inform future debates and future parliamentarians and future parliaments as to how it wants to conduct its business. Thank you.